most. People in Mississauga and across Canada reject the Conservative leader's reckless proposal to opt out of inflation with cryptocurrencies and are instead opting into the government's plan to make life more affordable, to make our communities safer and protect our environment.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
We have warned Canadians about the government's medical assistance in dying legislation. Bottom line, Mr. Speaker, literally life or death legislation deserves thorough review. Mr. Speaker, we must ensure vulnerable people are protected. It is very disappointing to see that this Liberal government is offering state-sanctioned suicide to our military heroes instead of providing them with the care that they need. This is so wrong on so many levels. Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister please press pause on this deeply flawed legislation?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Medical assistance in dying is a deeply personal and complex choice that touches people and families at an extremely difficult time in their lives. Since day one, our focus has been on creating a framework that has strong safeguards, that protects the most vulnerable, and remains compassionate. We will continue to make that our focus at every step, and we'll continue to work closely with provinces, territories, medical experts, and indeed all parliamentarians as we move forward on this process.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the safeguards simply aren't working. In too many cases, vulnerable Canadians, including injured veterans and persons with disabilities, are being offered assisted suicide instead of the supports that they want and need from the system. The heads of psychiatry at all of Canada's 17 medical schools have called for a delay to the Liberals' deeply flawed MAID legislation that will expand eligibility to those with mental disorders in March of next year. So will the Prime Minister finally listen to the experts, finally listen to vulnerable Canadians, and press pause on this deeply flawed MAID expansion?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the safety and security of our most vulnerable must remain at the forefront of our considerations. We need to be careful and thoughtful in our approach at every step. That's why we're continuing to work with experts, including those at the front lines and those with lived experience, working with all parliamentarians, working with provinces and territories to ensure that there is a strong framework in place.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, a Toronto man shot and killed his friend. He spent only 5 years in jail. Then he was charged in 2021 with another shooting, and while out on bail for that, he has now been charged for running a massive gun smuggling ring of the very guns that are being used by criminals like him to terrorize people in Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver and Winnipeg. This is what's going on in our cities, Mr. Speaker. Clearly gangs are the problem, so why is the Prime Minister going after hunters?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after the previous Conservative government cut about $1 billion from law enforcement and border agencies, we've stepped up on ensuring that our enforcement agencies have the tools they need. We've also invested massively in community safety programs, in support for young people, and yes, moving forward on gun control to make sure there's a freeze on the market for handguns and that we're banning assault-style weapons. This is something we're going to continue to work on. We will continue to work with law-abiding hunters and fishers to ensure that the right guns are banned, but we make sure that we are doing the right thing for all Canadians.